Welcome to Expressions of Leadership. I'm your host, Michele Kawamoto Perry. In every episode, we explore how people from educators and artists to executives and entrepreneurs lead with authenticity, rise through adversity, and share the wisdom they've gained along the way. Today's guest is Edie Higby, author of Joy by Design and founder of Practicing Joy, where she helps shape communities rooted in kindness, well-being, and emotional resilience. She also holds a degree in happiness, and in this episode, we'll explore how leadership and happiness intersect, and what it means to lead with joy, and how small changes can unlock big transformation. Welcome, Edie. It's great to have you on Expressions of Leadership.
Thank you so much, Michele. I am so grateful to be here, and I'm looking forward to our time together.
Well, let's dive right in. I'm curious to know, what was it that motivated you or inspired you to get a degree in happiness?
Isn't that awesome? Just to me, just talking about joy and happiness makes us happier. I think I'll tell you the story because I think sharing our stories helps bring to light like the why or the behind the scenes. I was looking for a master's program. I knew I wanted to get my master's degree, but it's a big commitment. You have to really want it, with working full time and having family. And I don't have littles at home anymore. I have adult children, but I was looking and I saw this science of well-being and happiness health program. And my daughter, who is a school counselor over in Oregon, and she has two masters, but she's a little skeptical, and she looked it up for me. She's like, I don't know, Mom, is this even credited? Is this, you're going to join a cult? I don't know. Let's look at this. So she did the research and looked it up, and she speaks truth to her mom. And she texts me and she goes, Mom, this is totally legit. The program's excellent. I've looked it up. It's at Centenary University. It's, the professor is Tal Ben-Shahar. He's world renowned. He used to work at Harvard. He's a leader in the field. And I was like, field of happiness? And she was like happiness health, like happiness studies. And that's what it's in. And she goes, it's an Edie degree. I said, that's awesome. It is an Edie degree. So I graduated in May. It was a 2-year program. There was over 60 of us. And, there's lawyers, there was doctors, there was psychiatrists, there was people, lots of teachers, but it surprised me who was in the program and who was in my cohort. And it was only the second cohort that they've ever done. And they just started a PhD program. So they've been approved for a PhD program, which is incredible. So, and at the time I was like, okay, well, I definitely want to be happier. I mean, who doesn't want to be happier? So I was interested in the positive psychology. I was interested in the well-being components of it, because it's not just about happiness, but that it was a field or a study now. It was fascinating to me. So the science was so intriguing to me, because I consider myself a scientist of joy. And the scientists experiment and they research and they define, and they're always looking for ways to contribute to the research. So that's how it all started. And at first, I think that is why I was, wanted to be happier. I wanted my degree. And I actually did that at one of the worst moments of my life, one of the worst years of my life. We had lost my brother in 2022, and my family really went through just some heavy trauma, heavy grief, just unspeakable sadness, and trying to find ways out of that. And then it found me, and it is an Edie degree. I can't believe it's been, it's 2 years later, and we're going on to PhD and doctorates, and it's the most incredible work I've ever done.
How do you define joy?
I define joy as showing up anyway. I think that's what practicing joy or joy by design is. It's that life doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. It's that you show up anyway. Like I don't know if I can swear on here, but all the crap's gonna happen. Like everything's it's bound to happen. Things are going to come at us. Life is certainly not perfect, but it's showing up anyway and still seeing the miracles in everyday life, even when it's one of the worst moments of your life, or you're going through a challenging season, or maybe you're just even just a bad day, one of your worst days of your life. If you just look around, there's always something to be grateful for. But I think that's part of joy by design, is being intentional about it and being aware that everything is a miracle, and just showing up anyway, even when it's hard, even when the crap hits the fan, even in those moments. That's what joy is to me.
You've built a body of work around joy by design. What does that phrase mean to you, especially in the context of leadership?
So joy by design, and what that means to me in the context of leadership, is one, putting people first, and having intention about how we do our work, being aware, having present moment awareness about who we are, our happiness, health, and caring about other people's happiness, health. Because I think being happy takes courage. Creating systems that people come first and meeting people where they are makes so much sense. Going back to the why, if we don't know our why and why we're doing the work in the first place, then why are we even here? But I think there's some real um, tools and resources that we can put into structures of systems that can help with happiness, health, and organizations and well-being, and that we need to start talking about well-being, and that's part of the joy by design framework.
And why do you think joyful leadership is so important right now in the world that we live in?
We know that like hope ignites um, happiness. It ignites joy. It ignites positive change. And happier employees, they're more productive, they're more creative, there's more satisfaction, there's increased profitability. We know that people are going to do better or do well if and work at their optimum level if they are happier.
What's a leadership moment that made you realize the power of happiness in action?
That's so good. Um I think about this story a lot because I we were under a lot of pressure to do this project. It was a big project. I was a project lead in it. And I think that this colleague was trying to help me prepare in this big training for this big project, and ordering supplies or whatever she was trying to ask me to do. And I just remember Sharpies, like she was trying to order me Sharpies for the training. And normally my response would be like, I would pick out every color and every shade, and I know exactly what I want. And I was, um, you know, I'd be very detail oriented about every single thing in regards to the supplies. But in this case, I just had other priorities. There was a lot of pressure. I was trying to prioritize my time and be protective of just making sure that execution was happening. And I didn't respond to her in a rude way. I wasn't negative. I wasn't, I mean, I'm positive by nature, but I wouldn't have responded rudely. Um, I didn't wasn't yelling absurdities or, calling her names or anything by any means. But my reaction was just like, she asked me the question, I was just like, I don't care. Like, just order, like, whatever. I trust whatever Sharpies you want to pick, just pick. And it hurt her. Like, and thank God she came and talked to me about it later, because it wasn't my normal response. But I remember thinking, I apologize. I said, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me if that wasn't my best moment. I just, I was in a hurry. I was trying to get all this done. And what that taught me was, it doesn't, it does not matter. You don't have to necessarily be rude or disgruntled to somebody. It's about being present. And if you're not present, you're not your authentic self. And when you're authentic self and you're present with people, that's what establishes connection. So I had a connection with this person. I care about people. I care about relationships. And in this moment, I just wasn't. I didn't respond how I normally would have. And it was just that one little thing that hurt somebody. And thank God we were able to talk about it. But I think that's what it the most important one of the most important lessons I've learned is. we have to be present, and we have to establish connection and have that rapport with people, because if we're going to be leaders, that authentic connection is what is going to create trust. And if we don't have trust in our teams and in our leadership, we don't have anything. That's the foundation of leadership, is trust with your team.
And when you think about your own leadership values, which ones are non-negotiable and how does joy show up in those values?
I love that question. Um, the non-negotiables for me are um, absolutely integrity, kindness, because I believe that being truthful is being kind, and kindness has to happen even in the critical conversations. And then lastly, I would say a sense of humor. Like, you have to be able to laugh about some things and have fun at work and be able to just have a playful spirit, because when the big projects come and the deadlines are there and the pressure is on, you have to be able to give each other some grace and fumble around a little bit and be playful. We're like, oh, I dropped that. Oh, I dropped the ball on that. Do you mind picking that up? And just kind of taking care of each other that way. So integrity, kindness, and fun, sense of humor. And I think that's how joy shows up, because we're not always going to be happy all the time. No one's happy all the time. I'm a positive person by nature, but the research even shows us that trying to be happy all the time or trying to be fake does the exact opposite. And I think that's part of being a leader, is being vulnerable, showing up anyway, just showing up and being present and just being like, this is not my best day, but I'm here and I care about you and I care about this work and the work we're going to do. So how are we going to get through it? And that's, just one step at a time. And that's how I think joy shows up. It's not always the pleasantries. It's not always the happy, fun fluff. It's this hard work needs to get done. This is going to be a hard week. It's going to be emotional week. We all have lives and families at home waiting for us. That some things people don't know what we're going through. So just by showing up, I and with those three things for me, integrity, kindness, and having a sense of humor, joy shows up.
We're just getting started with Edie Higby, and already there's so much wisdom on how joy and leadership intersect. We'll be right back after a short break. Stay with us. We'd love for you to be a part of the Expressions of Leadership community. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts and connect with us on Instagram and YouTube at Expressions of Leadership. Welcome back to Expressions of Leadership. I'm your host, Michele Kawamoto Perry, and we're here with special guest Edie Higby, founder of Practicing Joy. You've experienced profound personal losses. Your first husband passed away suddenly just days before Christmas,
Mm.
and you lost your brother as well. He took his own life. How did those experiences shape your understanding of joy and resilience?
Yeah. I like to think that everything in life is a lesson, and that, you know, I hate the cliche that everything happens for a reason. But when those things happen to you, things that happen to you that you never could dream of happening to you, like your worst nightmares coming true, your worst moments. With Sean, I really learned, and this was over 20 years ago. I mean, the kids were 12 and 9, and it was 3 days before Christmas. We had his funeral 3 days after. And I mean, when your world ends as you know it, and you're so blindsided by something that you did not see coming, you have to find a way back from that. You have to fight for your happiness. You have to fight for your freedom. I still had two little kids I had to raise and show up for. Um, the beautiful and the awful thing about life is that life goes on, even after tragedy, even after, profound loss. And, you still have to pay bills and you still have to show up for work. And, just trying to find a way to still show up is, um, has shaped me more than I can say. I mean, my lesson with Sean really was about life, and that nothing lasts forever, and that life is just such a precious gift. And with Gary, certainly, this is why it's so hard that people don't talk about it, because when you lose someone to such a tragedy and being a survivor of that, the guilt and the pain never go away. You're always questioning yourself if something could have been different. And so the challenge, the charge for me and the lesson for me was, what does all this mean? What is it about? Maybe we'll never find meaning in it, but to me, Gary's lesson was about love. And for love, that's how in in his in his thinking, he thought, he didn't want to see all of us. He didn't want to see all of us watch him suffer. And so, that was his love for us. Um, and it's such a loss and it's such a tragedy. And trying to find a way to come back from that is, it is an act of practicing joy every single day, trying to find micro moments, or just like, I literally, there was points where I just had to set my phone for 2 minutes, just for 2 minutes, and just find a TikTok or scroll or just laugh out loud, because we hadn't laughed or smiled for so long. And you're not going to feel like you want to when you're grieving or you're so sad. You don't feel like you want to do something fun and you don't want to laugh. But that staying stuck in those dark places is so unhealthy for our happiness, health, for our well-being, for our mental health, for all of those things. So to me, shaping our lives, it's almost like a prevention. It's a prevention plan. It's a passion plan. It's making a plan for when the bad things do happen. You have a joy plan, because you're going to have to plan some things that are going to get you out of the dark. And sometimes it might just be setting your phone for 2 minutes, going outside and, working in your garden, petting your dog, laughing out loud, just trying to find a way to be present in your life. And, I still had to work. I still had to be a mom. I still had to be, and a wife to Adam. And Gary, my brother, was his best friend. So it's, and my children lost their uncle, and my little nieces lost their dad. And I said, for a long time, I thought, the kids lost their mom again, like they lost another parent again, because after losing Sean and then losing Gary, it was just like I was so destroyed by what had happened. And, it was COVID, and it was, he had just gone through this awful divorce. He had moved and he was isolated. And I think the big lesson here in regards to well-being, especially, is that loneliness is a killer, and we need to start talking about it now more than ever. And with families dealing with, online bullying and cyberbullying and all the social media, and that can cause anger and anxiety, and just all the things, the political climate that we're dealing with, the stresses that families have now that, I didn't have when my kids were little. I can't imagine. So just talking about the wellness and the well-being, and especially when we have to show up for work, because we work, with people, we're with our work family more than we are with our real family, 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week or whatever it is. So finding ways to be present, finding ways to have hope. That hope is so important, because the worst human emotion a human being can experience is hopelessness. And that's what drives, for me, the joy by design, is having hope, doing whatever it takes to have healing, finding your happiness. Recipe is going to be different for me than it is for you. That might mean therapy. It might be, working out. It might be medications, whatever it is, finding your way to a joy plan, to practice joy every day for your happiness health, to improve that happiness health, no matter what's going on, because life is going to come for us, and the beautiful and the ugly, and it's how we show up. I think that's what builds character, and that's what matters, and that's how we have strong resilience. That's how we build resiliency and perseverance.
Edie, in your writing, you talk about the courage it takes to put on a smile and be present in those painful moments. How do
Yeah.
you practice presence?
I think that being truthful is being kind. And so even being truthful with yourself, um, having the ability to be able to say, I'm not okay. It's okay to not be okay. Um, and I think it's all of our responsibility to um, to heal our trauma, right? It's not our fault to what happened to us, um, but it is our responsibility to try to heal it and to fix it and to find out how to heal it and our in that happiness health recipe that I talked about, or um, having present moment awareness is having your is knowing yourself, is having that self knowledge, doing the me search. Um, and the grief lives in every cell of our body. Like it just stays there, and that's what causes disease. That's what causes um, all the bad things in our body, and we don't want to stay in a negative place because the consequences, even if they come out way later, it's not a benefit to anyone. It's We have to learn how to have a dual emotional model almost. You can have joy here and still have the pain here, and they can exist together. To me, especially in leadership or in my personal and professional life, um it's balancing the between the two, and having a shared space for both, and that both are okay, a shared space for both, and that just I just keep going back to that, um, permission to be human, because none of us are perfect. Leaders are not perfect. And I used to think for a long time that being a leader or a manager or being in a leadership role was having it, I have it all put together. I have everything figured out. And it's the quite the opposite. It's the exact opposite. It's the learning to be vulnerable, because we almost have to unlearn that, right? Because we've none of us. I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to talk about the most intimate, um, horrible things that have happened to me. None of us want to be a victim, but being humble and vulnerable in those moments shows that you are human, and that you know this matters, and that people matter, and if we can show up for the people and still say, this is not my greatest day, I'm not having a great morning, this is not my that not everything is always left at the door, that when we walk through the door at work, that we are carrying all of us are carrying something with us. And I think being kind is being honest. That's inspiring to me from a true leader.
You talked about vulnerability, and many leaders shy away from vulnerability. How has your story shaped the way that you model openness for others?
Vulnerability allows us to say, that wasn't my best moment. Will you please forgive me? Can I try that again? Or just, thanks for being there for me today. That's what I think. I think having compassion and kindness, and that's part of it, being a leader that inspires me. I have had to fire people before, uh, in a positive way. I don't, I just remember I've had to let people go more than I would like to even say, but I just remember always being in those moments that I too was vulnerable with them, and just really saying, being present with them and being with them in that moment, but being kind. And all I could think about was, if this was happening to me, I would sure want a leadership on the whoever is in a leadership role on the other side of the chair to me, to be kind to me in this moment, because that's an awful thing to have to go through. um, Being kind and showing up and trying to really put people first. That's that's I think would be my best suggestion, is that people we have to learn to put people first.
And if you were mentoring a colleague that was going through a personal hardship, what would you want them to know about balancing their humanity with their responsibility?
To me, they're not separate. They're like your humanity isn't different than your leadership. It's infused. And that's what vulnerability allows us to do, is to show that, still show your commitment to the work, because we do have responsibilities, and it can't all just be, a counseling session. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like real vulnerability, saying this is where we are. But as a mentor, if I was mentoring someone, I would say don't lose that vulnerability. Don't lose that human element to you, because that's what's going to draw people to you. That's what catches my attention. I mean, and that's how we make authentic connections. And if we make authentic connections, then we care about people first. And if we're putting people first and we have authentic connection, that builds trust in leadership. And to me, I mean, there's not leadership without trust. I mean, you might be in a management role, but if if I don't have trust with you, you're not a leader to me. I mean, I would say watch for the fear, because if you start leading with fear, then it's going to just infuse into all the work and everything that you do. And I think if we care about people first, then the relationship comes first, and then you have the connection, and connection builds trust. And without the trust, in my opinion, there's no leadership.
What about for teams and for their team members? If a leader notices someone on their team who is struggling, maybe quietly, what's one compassionate step that they can take to open that door of support?
In a leadership role, you are responsible for people. I mean, it's the greatest responsibility someone could ever have, in my opinion. You're responsible for other people. And if I saw someone struggling, and I have, I think coming from a place of kindness and compassion, and that integrity piece is just pulling them. Don't call them out in a meeting, of course, or even if your team is close, and just like, hey, are you doing okay? Like, do it privately. Make sure you pull them to the side and just say, I think just checking in, and just, I think it's okay to ask the question, is everything okay? I have really appreciated that when someone has done that for me and just said, is everything okay? You don't even need to tell me what's going on, but I'm here if you need me. Do you need, do you need me to help you cover your work with that? Whatever is the situation, um, to make sure that the work is being done, but that in a kind way of saying, you're not doing your job, so I need to make sure it's being covered. It's like, I don't know what's going on with you. How can I help? How can I help? Are you, do you need anything? Are you making sure and taking care of yourself? Or if they, that they're going through a hard time, or if they just lost someone they loved, or I don't know, if they lost a dog even, or a pet, like we are, those are our family members. Just being aware and sensitive and kind and caring, and just checking in, because you might not know how they are going to respond. But I think asking if they're okay, keeping it open, and then just saying, I'm here if you need me, because we care about people first, and that's building connection, and that's building trust.
That's a real powerful call to action for our leaders, really to be
Yeah.
present, to listen, to be there for them, to be
Yeah.
understanding, and to remember that well-being drives everything else.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah, it absolutely does. And it only makes sense that we care about well-being in our organizations and our programs and our workplaces, because that environment could be contributing to someone's, not well-being. And if that's the case, as a CEO or a leader or someone, I would want to know. I would want to know why. And if it's coming from somewhere else, and there's problems that need to be solved or brought to someone's attention. And I'm not talking about just being a whistleblower, but just being aware and being attention. And that if we are human, then we care about human connection. And if we care about people, then I think the work comes, like the productivity comes, the inspiration comes, the creativity, like all of it will come once we make sure that our people are taken care of.
Let's take a brief pause, and after the break, Edie shares her favorite ways to spark joy. True transformation starts from within. The Forward Project partners with organizations to create meaningful culture shifts and develop leaders who inspire real change. If your team is ready to move forward with purpose, visit www.theforwardproject.co. We're back on Expressions of Leadership. We're picking up with Edie Higby as she shares practical, powerful tools from her Joy by Design approach and how you can use them to lead with heart and intention. Your book, Joy by Design, and your website, Practicing Joy, are filled with practices that people can use to bring more well-being into their lives. Could you share a few of your favorite tools or rituals?
Yeah, absolutely. This is my favorite thing to talk about. Joy by Design was the foundation of taking the SPIRE model that I learned in my happiness studies and really framing it around happiness health. So the SPIRE model is by Tal Ben-Shahar, which is the spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and emotional well-beings, all the layers of our well-being. And I created the inspired model. So, and I added a beginning and I added an end because my first I is inspirational and then neurological and then the spire. And at the end, I added a D for the inspired. So, joy by design, live life inspired. But the D includes the developmental design of joy in our life. So that's one of my biggest takeaways from the happiness studies, certainly, but the tool of learning that, I can't just say be happy. I can't just say, I'm not going to tell someone that's depressed to just snap out of it. Like there are elements to our well-being that need nurturing, they need attention, they need, that's where the me search comes in, but the tools really are in that inspired model. And if I can know that, then I'm going to pay attention to, my intellectual and my inspirational and my neurological. Like, for example, the neurological piece was so incredibly important to me because we can't change behavior if we don't know how our brains work, right? With the addiction, or if we're trying to get all the good chemicals in our brain, the serotonin and the oxytocin and the endorphins and all the things that we need, then we find it in unhealthy ways. And our human spirit needs those things. So paying attention, finding out um, what works for you is not always going to work for somebody else, but that's one of my favorite tools, because when I can't just say I'm going to get up every morning at 5 a.m. and I'm going to work out and I'm going to do the physical part of it and I'm going to read a book and there's the intellectual part of it and I'm going to learn. It's like they all go together. They really have to find a balance. Like if I know that that I'm lacking in one area, I'm aware enough now that it'll come out in a different way. I'll be like, I didn't get my sleep last night. I didn't, this is coming up for me. I'm not sure why. Or the emotional part of it. So we're going through something emotional. If I, one of your part of your family or someone, the relational part is not good and something you need to fix, that's going to show up in your life in different ways. So for me, paying attention to that we're not just talking about gratitude, which gratitude is a great lens, but I'm not just talking about self-care. And self-care means self-care is so much more than just a bath and, a, a bottle of chocolate or a box of chocolates or a bottle of wine. It's so much more than that. And so really paying attention, really having the tools to navigate. And then if something's missing, you make a plan. You do an MVI. So an MVI is a minimal viable intervention. And I was like, I didn't even know I could do my own interventions. Like, that's so cool. So planning those experiments, learning about yourself, and then being like, that didn't work. I cannot do yoga. I cannot be a runner or whatever it is, finding a different way to feel the element of the physical and just learning all of those things and then trying to have the balancing act of it. And the tools they're fun for me. And I think, like I said, if joy is my product and happiness is my business, it's free to anybody that wants it. If I'm in the moment and I haven't looked at my inspired model for the week, but I'm in the moment, And I'm like, okay, I just need something right now. I'll do the ABC and 1, 2, 3. And I'll just be like, you want to accept where you are. There's my A, just accept and acknowledge. I need to breathe right now. B is for breathe. Just breathe and believe. Breathe and believe that you're right where you're supposed to be. It's going to be okay. Take 2 deep breaths. And then C is commit. Just commit and create. So you just commit to doing one small thing, one small change, and commit to it. And that's part of the D at the end of my inspired model, because we can make to-do lists, we can make action plans, we can make our happiness health, we can have the greatest plan for the week, but if we don't actually do it and practice it, it doesn't do us any good. So designing it, developing it, and then the actual doing it.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of my favorite ones. Barbara Fredrickson is one of my favorite scientists, and she has come up with 10 positive emotions. So I will even tell my team in a leadership role, just say, hey, let's pick one positive emotion. So joy is at the top, joy or inspire or awe, and let's just try to find that somewhere in our week. We have a busy week ahead of us. We have to focus on the work, but at the end of this week, I want everyone to come back to me with something they found in awe or enjoy or inspire, like in one of to focus on positive, and everyone gets a homework assignment, and then they're being intentional about what they're looking for and still doing the work. I mean, that's how we inspire good work. That's how we have to inspire people. I think that's what a good leader does. You know what would change the world? What would change the world, Michele? I tell this to people all the time. I'm like, I'm going to change your life today. We're going to change the world today, right now. Everyone on my team, I've asked to, at every stoplight on their way to work, take 2 deep breaths. 2 deep breaths at every single stoplight would change the world for everybody. And the tools are fun. So I hope everyone emails me or calls me or comes to the website or reaches out, because I'll share all of them.
And for a leader who might feel overwhelmed, what's a first step that they can take to design joy into their day?
It's so important for them to remember self-care, and then modeling it. Actually, not just saying it, telling their team to do it, but they're stressed out and they're not doing it. They need to remember that they are human too. And it's just like they say on the airplane, when the thing drops down, you have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of your child or someone next to you. You cannot come to work and take care of a team of people that you're responsible for, and your responsibilities and duties in your work on your caseload, without taking care of yourself, because you're going to fall or fail somewhere. So making sure that you keep that human element about yourself. And sometimes we don't know how to turn off our brain, and that's actually a trauma response. Our brain was never, ever meant to multitask. And why do we ever think that we're doing awesome when we're multitasking? Our brain is the most incredible organ in our body, and it's meant to do one thing, and that's survive. And if we are focusing, it's meant to just focus on one thing and do it really, really well, not a whole bunch of things. All it does is causes anxiety, causes stress, blood pressure, increases blood pressure, all of those things. We have to learn to just say, I'm going to do one thing at a time. I'm going to do it well, and then I'm going to go to the next thing, and then I'm going to break. And we need a brain break. Our brains are so inundated with everything, social media and our phones and our computers, and like work never leaves us because we have access to it all the time. So as a leader, I would say the most important thing is to take a brain break, remember, permission to be human, and that self-care is so important, and then to model self-care.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we'll talk about the stories that we tell, the wisdom that we share, and how meaning shapes the way that we lead. Leadership isn't just about strategy, it's about people. The Forward Project helps organizations cultivate strong, adaptable leaders who create thriving workplace cultures. If you're ready to invest in your leadership team, visit www.theforwardproject.co to learn how. We're back on Expressions of Leadership. I'm your host, Michele Kawamoto Perry, and I'm here with Edie Higby, founder of Practicing Joy. You described storytelling as a tool for accessing joy. Can you expand on that?
Absolutely. I use storytelling a lot in my presentations along with the science, but I do try to, tell a bit of my own story, why this work matters to me. And that storytelling also establishes connection. If we have a connection with people, then they want to know our story. They don't just want to hear about my science. They want to know why I'm up here, talking about this happiness health thing. It's like once they hear my story, and at the end, I say, joy is my product and happiness is my business. But you can see why this is very serious business indeed for me. Very serious business. And, it's the foundation of our lives. And I think we all have a narrative in our head. And we all have this narrative, right? Of what's going on. And there's one thing our brains are really good at. If you think something, if you believe something, your brain believes you. So I will say that again. Whatever you think or say or believe, these beliefs, this narrative. So if it's a negative narrative or a positive narrative in the stories that we tell ourselves, your brain believes you because it immediately starts looking for evidence of that thing, that belief. It starts looking. So if it's negative, it's going to start looking. Yep, you're right. Yep, he didn't say hi to you. She's rude to you. Just what the negative will come. You're not good enough. No one thinks your work's good enough. Like if that negative is there, your brain will believe you and it will immediately start looking for evidence. If it's a positive narrative, you can become the creator of your life. You become the creator of your story. And you can also, my daughter did this with me. She's like, when the intrusive thoughts come in or the negative narrative comes in and starts telling you about story, you are the queen of your brain and you get to say, be done. All of you leave. Like just tell them to leave and to think it again. And I think that's why storytelling is so important, establishes connection. But it helps us find a creative way to share who we are and share, you know, we all have stories. And I think it's one of the best ways to access joy. And sometimes talking about sadness is how you get to the other side. Talking about the sad things, or this is part of my story, and this is how I'm going to get back to joy, and just being able to share it with somebody else.
What's the most surprising or exciting thing that you discovered while studying happiness academically?
The brain science, not without a doubt, because it's, having trauma in my life and in my kids' life, and if anyone's had, the majority of the population has had some sort of trauma experience happen to them, and the neuroscience and the research that's done on the brain and the neuroplasticity, and that we can actually rewire our brains was absolutely fascinating to me. Like I cannot learn enough about it, and I think it's so exciting for all of us because our brain's number one job is to protect us. That's its number one job. So, and then finding ways to reestablish that those negative narratives in our head and getting good beliefs in us, so it can start looking for that evidence, and then we can change it. It's going to take some work. This isn't, I think happiness health is hard work. It's a lot of work. It takes a commitment and a stronger emotional agility and intelligence, that emotional intelligence to build resiliency and perseverance. That's how we do it.
Now, there's this phrase that you use. You said me search versus research. What does that mean in the context of personal growth and leadership?
Yeah, it's the first time I heard it, I was like, what is that? And it's actually a term in the happiness studies program. And that was one of the first things we learned, was doing the me search and learning about the MVIs and a minimal viable intervention. And I just thought, oh, I didn't even know I could do my own intervention. That's so cool. And my poor husband, and watching me run around and do all my experiments and actually writing them out and how I was going to do it for the week. And I was like, well, back to the drawing board. That didn't work. Um, just, I think the most important knowledge we could ever have is our self-knowledge. And when we know about ourselves, then we, one, know what we need, right? Two, we know how we might respond to certain things or what our triggers will be. Or, I mean, I learned so much about myself every day. And then, I was like, oh, so that came up. Where's that coming from? Um, so knowing how I was going to respond, that I might not have scheduled myself for something on an anniversary of, something that I knew was not going to be my favorite day to remember. Just knowing about yourself. You know yourself better than anybody. But sometimes I think we get so lost in our work and our families and our kids, and we're just doing all the things and going through all the motions that we don't, so often don't just pause and say, hey, self, how are you today? What are you doing? Just checking in with yourself, just getting to know yourself. Take yourself to dinner, take yourself to a movie, like go just sit underneath a tree and just reflect and think and breathe and see what comes up for you. I think that was the most important, one of the most important things that I learned how to do. And I do think just having the research and having knowledge about ourselves is the most important work we will ever do. And it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to know. So when we can break bad patterns or unhealthy relationships with, whatever it is, food or addiction or alcohol or money, finding what needs your attention, and then being able to put tools and resources into place that you can have a plan of how, you can either improve on that weakness or strengthen um, that grace. And that's building resilience. That's building really emotional resiliency and perseverance, is knowing how to emotionally show up for yourself. Because again, you can't lead a team, you can't show up for your family, you can't do any of that if you don't know about yourself and have a relationship with yourself. I think it's all of our responsibility. And I think we all need a lesson in ourselves and doing some research and committing to joy and having the responsibility that all of our happiness, health matters. Not just mine, not just my family's, but everybody's, my neighbors, my colleagues, my coworkers. And it's a ripple effect. And that my happiness affects my society and my community. And that's what we all need to pay attention to.
Well, we're going to take one final break before we wrap up with a few more questions for Edie, including one advice gem and one fun surprise. Don't go anywhere. By partnering with Expressions of Leadership, you'll reach an audience of professionals passionate about leadership and growth. For sponsorship opportunities, please contact us at letstalk@expressionsofleadership.com. We're back on Expressions of Leadership. I'm Michele Kawamoto Perry, and I'm here with Edie Higby, founder of Practicing Joy. Edie, I'd like to circle back to your powerful practice 1, 2, 3 that you mentioned earlier in today's interview. It seems like a very simple yet meaningful exercise. Can you tell us what it involves?
Yeah, it's simple. So I try to just keep it simple because people remember ABC and 1, 2, 3. And if you're in your car, if you're at work, or if you're just in the moment and you need something, this was simple for me to remember because I was like, I just take a breath. And the 1, 2, 3 is, so one thing to focus on today. So just one thing one thing at a time, right? Two things that you're looking forward to, and then three things that you're grateful for. So, and then again, we have to commit to these things, right? So one thing to focus on, because big change starts with small choices. That's how we change behavior. Two things that you're looking forward to, and three things you're grateful for. So if I am in a moment and I'm just in it, I'll run through that in my head. I'll just, what I'm going to focus on, just having a good day, finding awe, finding something joyful in my day, finding something positive. Two things I'm grateful for, of course, is my health and my happiness and my family. Looking forward to, dinner, the two things, and then being grateful. I'm looking forward to dinner and I'm looking forward to a workout. I'm looking forward to a workout. So that way I'll change my perspective, because if it's a fun workout, then I am looking forward to it. And then three things you're grateful for is so, I think it's so incredibly important to find things that we can be grateful for. And there's always something to be grateful for.
Before we get into the final segment of the show, can you tell listeners how they can learn more about your upcoming book, Joy by Design, your winning techniques on practicing joy, and how they can get in touch with you?
That makes me so happy. And yes, so they can find me at my website, which is www.practicingjoy.net. I just they can also find me on Facebook. So Practicing Joy on Facebook. So you can find me. You'll see my face there, Edie Higby. But I just started, this is cool. I just started a Joy by Design club. So it's like a community Facebook group. So people can join the group. They have a couple quick questions, just like what inspired you to join the group? Do you want to participate? And then, of course, just to be respectful and kind and courteous to people. But it's been so fun. And we started, I don't like calling it a challenge because I didn't want people to think I was taking something away from their life. I wanted them to feel like I was putting something back into it. So we just started the 40 days and 40 ways of practicing joy. And so going through the inspired model, each of the 8 pillars has 5 days. And then just going through each day. And after that 5 days is 40 days. And it's been magical. It's been so fun seeing people contribute on there, commit to a more joyful living, commit to practicing joy, commit to doing their MBIs and taking pictures, doing a gratitude celebration, just having dinner, not because it's Thanksgiving, but just because they were celebrating their family, putting flowers on the table, doing a cheers, using the real linens, just the simple things, the the things that don't cost any money, right? And just putting your phones away and spending time together. And our time together it's the greatest gift. It's the greatest gift that we can give to our family and to our colleagues, I think, is the gift of time and being present. So that's how they can find me. They can also email me. So it's ediehigby@practicingjoy.net. And I'm so excited for the book, so excited. And joy is my product and happiness is my business, but it's free for anybody. Of course, I hope people buy the book and I hope they use the tools. But when I say don't like just buy one book, like buy 2 books and then do it with somebody. Do it with a friend or do a book club or do it at work, like do a book study with your team. That would be, that's my hope. That's my hope for the book, is to inspire people.
And now for our final segment of the show, Wisdom and Whimsy, where we get to ask our guest one advice question and one fun question. Starting with a little wisdom, when you think about people just getting started in their journey toward joy, what's one small thing you'd want them to remember?
Permission to be human, and that it's just start now. Just start where you are. It doesn't have to be anything big. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. It doesn't have to be just one small choice can lead to big change, long lasting, lifetime, overall change. And that's how we find sustainable joy. That's how we have sustainable happiness health, is by not getting overwhelmed by these big pressures that we're putting on ourselves to, you know, make a change. It's just small, try minimal viable intervention. Just try one tiny little thing can lead to big change. And that's how we change behavior, is just one step at a time. So meet yourself where you are. Do it with a friend. That would be fun too. And then share with us on the Facebook page or join the club of what you're doing.
And now for some whimsy. What's one everyday object that sparks joy for you and why?
A candle. I would say a candle. I light a candle every day when I'm doing my spiritual practice or devotional or whatever that means for somebody. But for me, it's I light a candle and I do it when the house is quiet, no one's up yet, and it's just my time to set my intentions for the day. And there's something about the light, I believe, that creates energy, and it has the energy of the people that are in your life now, but I think it has the energy of the people um, that we don't have in our lives anymore, and that we hope to see again one day.
Well, Edie, thank you so much for sharing your joy and your honesty and your wisdom. I appreciate you showing us how powerful it is to lead with the heart and how possible it is to design a life full of meaning and connection.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. I've had so much fun, and just talking about joy makes us happier.
And thanks to our audience for spending part of your day with us. We hope that you're walking away inspired, reflective, and ready to lead with a little more joy. I'm Michele Kawamoto Perry, and this is Expressions of Leadership. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and lead with joy. If you haven't done so already, make sure to click on those follow and subscribe buttons so you don't miss out on future episodes. Have a guest you'd like us to interview? Questions, ideas, or just want to say hello? You can reach us at letstalk@expressionsofleadership.com or connect with us on Instagram or YouTube. We love hearing from you. And as always, thanks to our amazing team behind the scenes for making this show possible, including our sound engineer, Chris Zupa, and my chief encourager and advisor, Jeremiah Higgins.